Good day everyone, I am Clarice Ancajante from BSCS 4B, and today I will be discuss with you about Chapter 13, which is Interaction Design in Practice. Aside from that, we will discuss the Agile UX, design patterns, open source resources, and tools for interaction design. So, agile development, short 1 to 3 week time boxes of iterative development, sprint, iteration, and cycle. Early and repeated customer or user feedback. Reprioritization of work based on customer or user so that emergent requirements can be handled. Many approaches, for example, Extreme Programming, XP, Scrum, Kanban, and DSDM. Technical depth in UX. Making compromises that are expedient in short term but cause problems in long term. Refactoring to correct pragmatic trade-off. UX depth arises from trade-offs. A history of neglecting UX. Large portfolio of products developed independently. Agile UX integrates techniques from interaction design and agile methods. Agile UX requires balancing research and reflection for good UX with rapid iterations, incorporating user feedback. In agile iterations, requirements are elaborated and reprioritized rather than specified up front. Agile UX also, all techniques in UX are still relevant, but when to use and how much needs careful planning. Focus on product, not design as deliverable. And cross-functional teams. Three practical areas are user research, aligning work practices, and documentation.
Lean UX. Lean UX is a design management system built to help create well-designed products through frequent collaboration between teams, constant iteration, and frequent contact with your users. Lean UX is create and deploy products quickly to get real user feedback for the future developments. It is used to tight iterations for build, measure and learn, and then minimum viable product test and assumption. Like many design, Lean UX contains a lot of moving parts, but once your team gets going with it, you will find that it's an intuitive, fruitful way to get fast insights on what your users want. So, Lean UX is create to get your users feedback for the development of your future system. Next one is aligning work practices. Designing a complete product upfront causes problems before reprioritization. Same upfront work is needed technical and UX. Use a parallel tracks approach. Parallel tracks approach consists of create product vision before development starts. You should know the vision of your system before you develop the system and before you deploy it, which means you need to know what your users wants before you deploy the system. Do design work one iteration ahead of deployment, and some teams work 2 iterations ahead. So this is the cycle for the parallel tracks approach to Agile UX. First one is plan and gather customer data. So you need to get the customer data and then implement high development cost and low UI cost features. And then cycle 2 is you need to implement the designs for the users. And cycle 3 implement design also. And this one is designed for cycle 2, gather customer data for cycle 3. So basically, this one is interconnected to the design. What is your users want? Uh, you need to know what your users want before deploy and development the system. And then test cycle 1 code, design for cycle 3, gather customer data for cycle 4. So basically, you need to test the cycle 1 again on what your users want. And the last one is test cycle 2 code, design for cycle 4, gather customer data for cycle 5. Aligning work practices. Advantage of parallel tracks approach. No design time wasted on features not implemented. Second is usability testing and contextual inquiry could be done on the same customer visit, saving time. Third one is timely feedback on the designs was received from developers and customers. Uh, Lastly is agile flexibility supports schedule changes if a problem is found. Parallel tracks is commonly used. Documentation. Common communication approach for UX designers. Agile encourages minimal documentation, so more time can be spent on the design and discussion. It creates more time for the designing and the development of the system. Only use documentation where needed. Ask, can the amount of time spent on the documentation can be reduced? Who uses the documentation? What is the minimum needed by the customers? How efficient is the sign-off process of the system? Is there duplication anywhere? And how polished does documentation need to be?
Design patterns capture design experience. A solution to a problem in a context can be instantiated in many ways or generative. Patterns may be individual, in languages, in catalogs, galleries, or libraries. Patterns often are associated with software components, for example is the GitHub or platform websites. The design patterns or carousels. These are the examples of carousel pattern. And bad design patterns capture design experience but does not necessarily mean good design. There are two examples of bad design patterns. The anti-patterns or don't do this way and the second one is the dark patterns or deliberate tricks. Open source resources has three components. First one is components, frameworks, system available free of charge. Second one is community driven. Available for interactions design has two components, design patterns, libraries, and the bootstrap framework. Tools for interaction design. Tools support all aspects of the design process. Creativity, sketching, simulation, brainstorming, library search, mind mapping, and video capture. Tools integrated together to speed up prototyping, tooling landscape, changes all the time. Interactive wireframes or mock-ups can be produced using, for example, is the Mockup C, Balsamic C, and Azure C. Higher fidelity prototypes can be produced by linking interactive wireframes to design patterns library with software components. Summary: Agile UX refers to approaches that integrate UX design and agile development. Needs a balance between research and reflection and rapid iterations. Requirements are repeatedly prioritized, which seeks to avoid wasted effort. UX design activities need careful planning when, how much, and how to take forward. Design patterns and implementation libraries support good user experience design. Open source resources, for example on GitHub, make development of standard application easier and quicker. A range of automated tools to support interactions design in practice is available. That's all. Thank you.